It's been a busy few weeks of Overwatch, new events, the workshop feature with seemingly limitless potential. Meanwhile, tons of Overwatch players are sitting around hoping that ranked mode gets some love. If you fall in this camp, well, this video is for you. We've been compiling responses to all of the updates going on. Problems with ranked, console mode, is the workshop just a big smoke screen to distract from the actual problems? And more will be covered today, but also Scott Mercer popped onto the forums today to announce a major change for Season 16 for Grandmasters players only. We'll go in reverse chronological order, dealing with that first, then discuss the community's biggest concerns with everything else going on. This is the update. Starting with Season 16 of competitive play, GM players will no longer be able to queue for competitive matches in a party size larger than 2, in an effort to have higher quality and more fun matches for everyone. Overwatch actively tries to place parties of similar sizes together to create fair matches. For the vast majority of players, this feature of the matchmaking system works reasonably well. For our Grandmasters players, making fair matches is always more difficult simply because there are fewer players of their skill level to place together. It's even harder if we allow Grandmasters players to queue with larger groups. We believe this change will help create better quality matches for all Grandmasters players. Thank you, and please continue to share your feedback about competitive play. Okay, so let's break down this change. What's their intent with doing this, and what, if at all, ramifications could this mean for the rest of the matchmaking system, not just Grandmasters players? First and foremost, the reason for this change is that streamers and pro players and solo queue players abound in GM pretty consistently get raffle stomped by 3 stacks, but I'll put a little asterisk here because it's usually the best 3 stacks that you could imagine. Like Mano, Carpe, and Jonak all together rampaging through ranked and seemingly feeling impossible to go up against, especially if you don't have a uber 3 stack on your team as well. Now, the thing I want to point out about this, if you only look to the highest levels of play, it's very easy to have a skewed opinion of how stacking works in Overwatch Ranked, because really, everywhere else beyond the top level of the game, stacking is a disadvantage, not an advantage. If your goal is to gain SR, although you'll become a better player playing in a stack because you'll be playing the real game, hard mode, the enemy team likely will be a stack and trying 2, whereas in smaller queues, 1 or 2, the intensity of the matchmaker doesn't kick in and you'll be put into the lowest impact, easiest games that they can find for you when you queue, rather than when you stack, it tries to find the hardest match possible when you're searching for a queue. That's why it waits so long in order to put you into a game. But there's a big difference between the mere mortals like you and I trying to stack and the uber stack of Carpe, Jonak, and Mano, is that when you're at the highest possible end of the skill distribution, there's no one else to pull from, to pull down, to go up against you. Whereas if you stack at lower ranks, not only are you going to go up against large stacks a lot of the time, because for example, you 3 stack at Plat, there's a high chance you're going to go up against a 6 stack, whereas in GM, nobody 6 stacks, so 3 stacking is considered optimal, but also there's a higher percentage chance that you're going to pull in Smurfs as well, because Smurfs want to play with their friends. Also, they get identified, I think, by the internal MMR system. So every time I've ever tried to stack, there's an outrageous percentage of Smurfs against us, and the matches are way harder than the gameplay you get at that same SR level in solo queue or duo queue. But for guys like Jonak, way up at the top, like there physically isn't anyone in the world that they could find to equate with them anyway. So that's why I think this rule is only going to stick to the GM lobbies, and I don't expect any queue restrictions to go into place at any other rank. Now, some of you were worried if this might trickle down to the lower ranks and then start to do a duo or solo only queue. Can honestly say I doubt that's going to happen, because with larger player numbers to work with, it's a lot easier for the matchmaker to find fair matches. And also, the punishing nature of a group has diminishing returns on lower levels of play, because just because you're in a pre-made at gold, even if you're up against solos, it doesn't mean you know how to play as a team all of a sudden and are just going to walk over solos. It does mean you're probably going to attempt to play comps that aren't terrible, but other than that, there's not this massive advantage, even if there's a perception that grouping is this huge big deal. The bigger positive that I'm going to take away for the mass player base with this is that Blizzard is willing to bend its rules to create a better experience. I'll be honest, I think this is peanuts, the tip of the iceberg, I hope, and with any luck, is a signal of things to come in the big summer update, giving us a new feature, whatever that may be. If it isn't role lock or something on the equivalent power level to buff up the ranked experience, I think there's a lot of us that are going to be pretty upset. But it's been so long since ranked mode has had anything changed to it whatsoever of any significance that this has me jumping out of my seat like, oh gosh, what do they have planned? What's next? Because as many of you have pointed out in our past week's videos, that the workshop is great and all, but it's long overdue that significant rank changes be implemented. Is this baby step a sign of things to come? I sure hope so. Personally, I don't know how to read it, because like this commenter says, the workshop mode reminds us of old Blizzard. I want to stress, I don't want to seem ungrateful with all of this stuff just because it isn't precisely the thing that I want. Instead, I'd rather have the optimistic view that giving up some creative control from outside the Blizzard dev team with the workshop mode, giving the fans the ability to create their own content, is a huge step forward, and any rank change at all also means they're willing to make changes and improvements. We want to see more of this kind of stuff. In fact, for the longest time, I've said I want more of this and less actual content, because it seems over there at Blizzard, because making these types of decisions are harder, even if the workload is technically lighter, it seems like they're far better at just putting their nose to the grindstone and churning out new events, new skins, new content, new heroes. But the tough decisions like, well, do we make Grandmasters just solo and duo to fit the expectations of the majority of the player base while still alienating some others? For years, they let that kind of decision go, but here they make a stand, which I think is important. Remember, I'd rather there be a team queue. Rather ranked was a full team queue or complete team dominance in ranked. That's what I want. But above what I personally want, I want Blizzard to make hard creative choices to refine what the ranked experience should be like. So although this change doesn't do anything for the majority of the player base, I think it's a sign of things to come, if that makes sense. They're taking responsibility for the social dynamics of their game and looking to make solutions to the problems it presents naturally. So whether that's the queue restrictions for GM players to be able to play how most of them want to play anyway, or the workshop, which to me is a huge step for Blizzard to make because it's handing over the reins of creative control. Both of these moves are in the right direction to allow the community to have influence over the game they play and paid for, let's not forget. Now, we've seen a lot of comments that take the opposite view, more pessimistic, angry at the Blizzard developers. Is the workshop just a big smokescreen to distract us from the actual things we expect to get changed and fixed? I don't think so. Because like they said, the workshop as a feature was a side project that a couple members of the dev team have been working on off to the side over the past year. So despite me thinking that type of thing should be their main focus all the time, it's only recently become their main focus. And stringing a couple plot lines together here to go full beautiful mind Blizzard whisperer on this whole situation, remember this: Aaron Keller and Jeff Kaplan, with interviews with O'Nickel, Fariha, and Nathan, admitted that the focus of the team is now onto features. So it's almost like this workshop feature started gaining momentum a year ago, or maybe even halfway through, like 6 months ago, while they've been working on it for a year, and now the dev team have switched momentum towards developing features overall, and this is just one of the multiple things to come. So while yes, it could be easy to still be upset because there's been so many years of hard-headedness on this, like this commenter is memeing them about Gun Game, where they keep making these other arcade modes that we don't necessarily want. Meanwhile, the second they make the workshop mode, we make Gun Game or Hero Gauntlet, and it's a huge success. Well, duh. Like, it's very clearly going to be an awesome mode. We don't even have to play it to know that. It immediately hit the ground running, and it goes up against any arcade mode they ever had, and there's only going to be more of that churning out regularly now with the workshop, which is good for everybody. Zenaz asks, is the workshop PC only? This is an important question because it seemed like a lot of people were confused on this. Unless Blizzard says something is explicitly PC only, like the PTR or specific balance patches that are separate from console, everything goes to every platform. That's their goal. Just like they said with the guild system that they want to work on, one of the biggest hurdles to get over is making it work for console too. They want everything to be uniform. So yeah, the workshop mode, you're getting it too on Xbox or PlayStation, and with so much work put in already on the PTR version of it, you'll be able to just plug in any of the codes you've seen in videos we've covered or on Reddit or wherever, and use the same settings everybody else was using to play Diva bumper cars or whatever you're into. More on the console experience. Of course, we don't play on console. However, we have made videos in the past highlighting some of the most crucial console problems, and many of them are similar to PC problems, obviously, sometimes just exacerbated by the platform. For example, whatever you think of Smurf accounts on PC, it is way worse on the consoles because you can make a new account for free on the PlayStation, meaning you can have infinite Smurf accounts. What a nightmare. The only way to fix this would be to have a SMS protect on ranked accounts, and that doesn't solve everything because it's not too hard to get a burner phone or use your friend's phone or somebody who doesn't even play Overwatch, get their number, whatever, but at least it's another step in order to stop it from being infinite. Any safeguard is better than nothing, and I think that's something that would fix problems for a big percentage of the player base. The culture of having a million accounts on Overwatch is just lame and bad for the game, I think. But at the same time, players kind of need alt accounts if they want to play different roles on them in ranked. But hopefully they kill two birds with one stone with that, come out with a role queue, role specific SR, then it would be easier to have each account be locked behind an SMS protect, meaning that you care a whole lot more when you get banned or reprimanded, reported, etc., because there's more hoops to jump through to get your account back online or get a new account to get back into playing ranked. Also, LZ Supreme on Twitter asks if Blizzard should patch heroes differently on the console. And the thing is, they already do this. Symmetra and Torb and perhaps others, but I know them specifically, got tuned back quite significantly on the console. And frankly, I'm not sure why they don't go harder on this and treat it as an entirely separate platform. But on the subject of balance on the whole, Blizzard has recently said that they're pretty happy with the balance state right now, which might be insane to think if you're an Overwatch League fan, but I think I know where they're coming from, because in quick play and ranked, there's a wide open meta. 3-3 is extremely dominant in pro play, but it's pretty difficult to emulate the amount of clean shot calling, decision making, and teamwork that's going to be required to succeed with the comp in ranked. If you have that, you know your win conditions, it's by far the best thing you can do still, just by understanding how milking the clock and stalling the objective, surviving longer, executing combos with ults, you do all those things, it's still the most efficient way to play the game, but it's not like you can just pick those heroes and win in ranked anymore, or that was the case I would say last season. I know quite intimately, as all I did was fill on 3-3 heroes, try to play 3-3 every match whenever I could, run over teams that weren't playing it, and got tons of SR for free, reaching my career high. Aren't I a good player? Not really. Whereas now, in ranked, sure, at the super high levels of the game, 3-3 is still getting run because people actually know how to play it. I mean, a lot of them in upper GM are pro players or semi-pros anyway, so they obviously know the roles and how to go about it. But outside that, the multi-DPS strats that counter it are too popular anyway in ranked. I mean, everybody wants to play triple DPS. They want to play 6 DPS if they can, and usually players aren't willing to do the extra work to win with the multi-tank comp rather than just trying to contest with their own version of the shooter elements of the game. So that's why Jeff Kaplan's happy with the balance state. I also think it's fair to say that if he knows there's going to be a role lock or something coming up, which is going to fix everything for everybody, get 3-3 out of the Overwatch League, but also give ranked role queue, I would imagine that they would call the current balance state fine because they'll have a whole nother kettle of fish to worry about whenever that comes into play. So stuck in limbo at this point. It'll be interesting to see what moves Blizzard makes in the future. Should expect something big for ranked, I think, in a month or two. And if not, it's going to be time to bring the pitchforks out because it's been too long. Well, guys, that's going to be everything for today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you did enjoy it, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And be sure to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news updates and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.